Councilmember Eoff, Councilmember Yoshimoto, Councilmember Ford, and to my left I have Councilmember Willie and Jay Yoshimoto. Councilmember, where did Fresh go? Onishi is excused or, well, not here for wherever he is. Okay, I'd like now to call this meeting to order. At this time, we would like to take statements from the public on the agenda items. Please be advised that you have 3 minutes on each agenda item. So I'd like to start with Kau. Do we have any testifiers in Kau?
Good morning, Madam Chair. There are no testifiers for your committee today.
Thank you. Moving to Pahoa, good morning. I'm saying good afternoon. Do we have testifiers in Pahoa?
Good morning, Chair. No, ma'am, we do not have any testifiers for your committee this morning.
Thank you. Okay, Waimea, do we have any testifiers in Waimea?
Good morning, Madam Chair. No, we have no testifiers in Waimea.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
Moving on to Kona. Do we have any testifiers in Kona?
Good morning, Madam Chair. No, we do not have any testifiers today for you.
Thank you. And in the
Thank you.
Thank you. In the Hilo chambers, we do have 2 testifiers. So I'm going to ask them to both come up, and it is Dwight Vicente and who is this one? I can't make out. Mark McNett. The name is not absent from here. So we'll start with Mr. Vicente.
Okay, I'll have 2 this morning.
And can I ask you that when you transition into...
all right, I'll let you know.
Let me know. Thank you.
Okay, on 85 again, nomination, you have to question the status of what country they actually naturalized to. In the case of the United States, it's 13 individual states. As for the Hawaiian Kingdom, it had laws to naturalize. The state of Hawaii has none. And I forgot to tell you, I'm representing Hawaiian Kingdom. Okay. Communication 79. Government remnants situated. Which government are you talking about? There's only Hawaiian Kingdom that's been recognized that actually owns property here. The land title is either Crown or government land designation. So one need to question, and they've got even a tax map key, which is not part of the Hawaiian Kingdom. Hawaiian Kingdom dealt with land contracts, mostly land patents. So you need to question title. The problem is the title is in the name of the Hawaiian Kingdom. And the kingdom is on a long vacation so far, over 100 years. Forced vacation at gunpoint. So with that, I'll end with the reservation of the king's right, this kingdom's rights under the Queen's Protest of January 17, 1893. It is yet to make its way to the U.S. Supreme Court, Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2. Original but limited jurisdiction over U.S. Minister Stevens. And the other one is the Monroe Doctrine, or the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. Venue, D.C., jurisdiction, U.S. District Court. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that non-introduction. Moving right down your agenda in order, Communication 85, the nomination to the PONC Commission is a gentleman unknown to me. Reading the bio again, I believe he's a good fit. In regards to what I said upon leaving the council meeting last time, I have a little bit more research to do, but I'm relatively assured with a certainty and a guaranteed certainty that the payments to the PONC Commission will likely be suspended. And, please avoid getting me wrong. The PONC Commission is well intended, and the whole idea is laudable, and I believe it can be cleaned up and rehabilitated. It's going to take some effort, and the collateral damage will be unfortunate, but it could be wrong. I've been wrong once or twice before, and it may turn out to be all innocent. So I'm just going to guess and say yield back a minute on that and move on to Communication 86, Bill 30. Some papers magically appeared over there in like the last 15 minutes. It went from 3 million to 30 million, which I'm okay with that. The similar facility proposed by the longtime councilman, our erstwhile friend Donald Ikeda for Hilo area. I thought at the time, Waimea, Kona, perhaps Kohala, but over the years I've advocated for mid-level shelter buildings. I mean mid-elevation, as many as we could get, Mauka of population centers, because there always is the possibility of being cut off by lava flows, a tsunami, earthquake, storm. And again, I'm pretty sure the people of the districts of South Kona and North Kona pay well over that every year in property taxes. That's probably a somewhat minor fraction, the 30 mil. And you back in 1 minute and 31 seconds, Communication 88, Bill 31. Similar thing with the, I forget what you call it, when like late testimony is separate from the book. And these were by the introducer of this bill and the previous one, this communication. And I'm referring to I believe it would be Communication 86.1 and 88.1. 86.1, it went from 60,000 to 200,000, and I believe 88.1 went from again 60,000 to 200,000. And that's a more realistic figure as far as that goes. And for a park to have water, that's a big thing. For anyone to have water and be without, it's a significant quality of life issue. As I've said once before a couple of times, the list of things we can live without is practically endless. Water's off that list. So I'm just guessing yield back a minute and a half to a minute on that one and start out the shipment donation of $250 for the food and beverages for Vulcan baseball clinic participants. Shipment's a good corporate citizen many times. They've been targeted as part of the Big Five, and everything from playing a part in the overthrow and everything. But I tell you, you can't play baseball without getting thirsty and hungry. So you're back 2.5 minutes on that. And the final business item, since the unfinished business has been withdrawn, the 2 audits, that's an unfunded mandate. It's hard to see any way around that, so you're back 2 minutes and 45 seconds on those. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, prior to reading the first item on our agenda today, please read into the record items 4 and 5 of Council Rule number 19 relating to order and decorum, please.
Item 4, all council members shall extend proper courtesy, fairness, and impartiality to one another and to all persons speaking before the council. See Hawaii County Charter Section 14-4. All persons shall be addressed by their surnames. Item 5, profanity, obscenity, name-calling, abusive remarks, obscene or impolite gestures, threats or threatening gestures, or throwing items shall not be allowed at any time in any meeting by any member of the public, the administration, or the council members.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Will you please read Communication 85 into the record, please?
Communication 85, nomination of Timothy R. DeLozer to the County of Hawaii Public Access Open Space and Natural Resources Preservation Commission. From Mayor William P. Kanoy, dated January 7, 2013, requesting the council's review and favorable recommendation of the above nomination.
May I have a motion to close file on Communication 85?
So moved. Second.
It has been moved by Councilmember Kern and seconded by Councilmember Onishi. Welcome, Shar. Can you
Good morning,
introduce?
Madam Chair and members of the Finance Committee. Mayor Kinoy's nominee to the County of Hawaii Public Access, Open Space, and Natural Resources Preservation Commission, which we refer to as PONC, from District 1 is Timothy DeLozer. He is a 10-year resident of Hawaii and currently the branch manager of Sound Mortgage Incorporated. He's a founding member and previous chapter president and vice president of Business Networking International from 2005 to the present. He has been a volunteer with the Penn Youth Foundation and a mentor, coach, and a program coordinator at Community Partners for At-Risk Youth in Portland, Oregon. Mr. DeLozer states that he's not affiliated with any political party, and if confirmed, he will serve a term to end on December 31st of 2017. He replaces Terry Markovich, whose term expired on December 31st of 2012.
Hi, can you please state your name for the record and if you want to say a few words?
Good morning, Timothy DeLozer. I'm just excited about this opportunity and hope to have the chance to be a part of this committee.
Any questions or comments? Councilmember Kern?
Thank you, Chair. I've known Mr. DeLozer for probably about 5 years now or so, and I just want to say he's been a good guy. He's out there, he's active, he's involved in the community. I do believe he's somebody that has the type of passion that we need on our commissions as well. I fully support Mr. DeLozer, and all my experiences with him have been great and excellent. I'm happy to be part of the community and being willing to serve on a commission. So thank you.
Councilmember Willie?
Yes, thank you very much for serving, and I hope with your recreational interests that you're able to integrate some of those say trails and other ways that the community can appreciate some of the lands that are put into this category or that are acquired. I do want to make one statement, not personal to you, but just in terms of how we, the balancing on these commissions, and I'm really directing this more like to the mayor's office. My best recollection is a number of the people we put on this committee are really strong in terms of recreation. I know the person he's replacing is someone that was very strong in terms of somewhat recreation, but also environmental issues. And so just, I'd like to look a little bit more in terms of how we balance, you know, like cultural issues and the diversity on the committees. And it may be just fine on this, but I just keep feeling whether it's like the South Kohala, any of the committees, where are the cultural interests, where are the environmental issues, and how do we bring those together? So I just want to make that general statement of concern, and it may not be relevant to this committee, but I do know that Terry was very concerned in terms of culture, environment, and say that to you and not anything directed to you personally. And I, again, thank you for volunteering, and I look forward to hearing from you. I'd love to have you come visit me sometime in the office. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I would just
go
like
ahead.
to say that with all the applications that come in, we do look at thoroughly to all the applications and try to find the best balance for all the commissions.
Thank you. Councilmember Kanuha?
Mahalo for your commitment to serve the community. I had a question more on the lines of the resume, and I don't know if it's confidential or not, so I kind of wanted to ask Mr. Ashida, Corporation Counsel, a question real fast, if that's okay. And it's more on the lines of financial disclosure. Is this commission required to file financial disclosure statements?
Yes, all advisory members, all members of boards and commissions are generally required to file financial disclosures. However, with respect to board and commission members, those financial disclosures remain confidential. In other words, they're not available to the public. I don't even see them. They're not digitized or reduced. They're not even scanned. Just the original documents are maintained under lock and key with the Board of Ethics.
Okay, so if a person wanting to become part of a board says they don't want to file a financial disclosure,
yeah, that might be problematic because unless it's a board or commission which the financial disclosure requirement does not apply, that is a requirement of service. PONC, I don't have off the top of my head, I believe that requirement does apply.
Okay, thanks for the information.
Yeah, oftentimes, I'm sorry for interrupting, Mr. Kanuha. Oftentimes, that's we don't make that clear enough up front, and a lot of applicants or nominees intuitively sometimes they say, no, I don't want to do it if I don't have to. We need to do a better job of educating them up front that it's highly confidential.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure that Mr. Delosier knows that. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Being none, Mr. Clerk, will you please take the vote?
Ms. Eoff.
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
No.
Mr. Iligan.
Aye.
Mr. Kanuha.
Aye.
Mr. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Onishi. Ms. Willie.
Aye.
Mr. Yoshimoto.
Aye.
Chair Poindexter.
Aye.
Chair, you have 8 ayes.
Okay, Communication 85 is filed, and does everybody agree that he does not have to come back for the council hearing? Okay. And now we have I know we have a amendment. Does the clerk read that in, or do I just ask for a motion to, everybody got the amendment for 85.1 for correction in the letter, January 7th?
Agenda first, and then the amendment. I don't know.
Okay. So.
It's just a letter of correction.
Okay, so then do I have to make a motion to amend the contents that is contained in 85.1? No?
No, you do not.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Clerk, will you please read Communication 86, Bill 30 into the record?
Communication 86, Bill 30, relating to the public improvements and financing thereof for the fiscal year July 1st, 2012 to June 30th, 2013. From Council Member Brenda J. Ford, dated January 11, 2013, adds the Parks and Recreation Kona Emergency Shelter and Multipurpose Event Center project for $3 million to the capital budget. Funds for the project shall be provided from the General Obligation Bonds, Capital Projects Fund, fund balance, and or other sources, $3 million. This project will provide for a multi-purpose center capable of holding large events as well as provide an emergency shelter for residents of Kona.
May I have a motion to approve Bill 30?
So moved. Second.
It's Councilmember Zendo Kern has moved for the passage of Bill 30, seconded by Councilmember Onishi. Any discussion? Yes. Sorry, Councilmember Ford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I would like to amend Bill 30 with the contents of Communication 86.1.
Second.
Thank you. We inadvertently left a zero off of this. We can't bill this with $3 million, so it's $30 million. Also, I wanted to explain that this particular project is possibly a partial use of the Air National Guard to come in to do some in-kind work for the grading. They would not be actually building the building. As you know, the Air National Guard is trying to work out a deal with the county to help us with some of our projects. Had a great cost savings to the county. I spoke to the mayor, and he is willing to make this commitment to allow this, not necessarily on this particular project, but in general, he's willing to do this. But the Air National Guard needs projects where they can do a stop-start thing. So the only thing they'd probably be able to do on this one would be potentially the grading. So I just want to let you know that there's a potential of saving at least $2 million on this particular project. This is a project to build an emergency shelter and a multi-event center in West Hawaii. We have nothing in West Hawaii of this nature. As you will look at the FIS statement, you will see that there is no particular piece of land that is listed, and that's because none has been chosen at this point in time. It's going to depend on where we can get land, either county or more likely state, and the most likely area for this would be probably District 8. That's our growth area. That's where most of the growth in Kona is going, and that's where most of the people are as well. So it's most likely that it's going to be someplace in 8, but it will serve all Kona districts 6, 7, and 8. This center will also be an emergency shelter for up to 1,000 people in case of a long-term disaster. I ask for the council's support on this particular project. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Yes.
Council Member Onishi?
Yes. Is anyone from Parks and Rec or Civil Defense here?
We're supposed to have, Darren is supposed to be here, but I don't know what happened.
Maybe can we table this until they come here? Because I just want to have some questions for them. And then also, it was mentioned earlier that there's not really any, I guess, property that they're looking at, but on the back of the project data financial impact statement, it says TMK, it says UH campus or to be determined. So my question to Ms. Ford is, where's the UH campus?
The UH campus is the 800 acres where next to the subdivision known as Palama Nui, 73 acres up.
Okay, my next question would be, but no, I just want to know where it was. So it's Palama Nui.
No,
okay.
no.
In that area?
Yes.
Right, okay, so that's good. And the next question was that, did you contact the UH to find out if that's a possibility?
No, because it's to be determined.
Well, it says UH campus or to be determined.
Exactly, or.
So, but you had UH campus, so I'm just saying if you contacted them.
No.
Okay, thank you.
To be determined.
Okay, thank you.
Any, Councilmember Kern?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I fully support a multi-use and emergency shelter on the west side. It's more than needed. It's clear. I think it'll actually help build island unity to have both sides of the island with an actual multi-event facility. So I fully support this. I think this does serve the goal that we were trying to accomplish as a council, to work together and build equality and unity around the whole island. So I support a facility like this.
Thank you. Let me go to Councilmember Willie, and then I'll go to Councilmember Elegant.
Okay. I'm also supportive of a facility. At the same time, I want to bring up the concern I raised when the discussion was about the east side facility, and that is trying to take somewhat of a comprehensive look at the island. I've sort of been holding back suggesting something that would, for say, District 9 and District 1. At one of the council members' suggestion, I was encouraged to go speak to Parks and Rec and sort of see how we could do a more sort of a holistic view, not just very expensive facilities, but what other small gathering places we need. I didn't, from my discussions with them, they're sort of, well, we have these 3 park areas they were developing, and I didn't get a sense that they were in a position to really do that presentation, and I'm not sure who. I feel right now we're sort of getting things on the wish list. I'm going to support this. I do have reservations in terms of I want to look at the island as a whole and be supportive and figure out our priorities and moving forward. So I'm not sure how we get that presentation and look at it quite as on an island-wide level, and I would really appreciate any suggestions from anyone. So I'll be somewhat reluctant from here on in terms of actually the committing of money until I feel that I can make a comprehensive decision in support of the island as a whole. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Iligan?
Thank you, Chair. I will support this project and as a wish list. And I talked to Parks and Recs and I talked to the director about it. They haven't acquired land for it, but the director or someone in Parks and Rec can verify that for me. And I just want to yield with saying that I do support this project as a wish list. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Yoshimoto.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the amendment, just had a question for Ms. Ford. On your financial impact statement, I think you need to change the $3 million to 32 there, just as a housekeeping kind of an item when you look at that on the top.
No.
Oh,
may I
yeah, go ahead. Oh, okay.
May I respond, Madam Chair? Sure. Thank you. Go ahead. I've had a long discussion with the LRB. The way it works is that anything that you have in the column down at the bottom of the FIS statement, where it says this fiscal year 12-13 request, that, and you'll see it says $3 million, that's what gets plugged up into that right-hand corner. Right, for this fiscal year. But we're bonding, excuse me, strike that.
We're not bonding.
We're not bonding at all. Okay. We, the council, are appropriating the total $30 million to the project. There's 2 ways to do this. You can either appropriate just the $3 million, which other council members in the past have done, or you can appropriate the entire amount, which I and many other council members have done many times in the past. They're both appropriate. The advantage to doing it this way is you get the whole project appropriated by the council. Hopefully someday we'll get money, or we might get FEMA money for something like this. If you do it the other way, which is still legal, you have to bring it back to council a second time to get the remaining construction money. You and I may not, I won't be here. So my goals, I'm telling you right now, since I've termed out, and Mr. Yoshimoto also has termed out, my goal is to get everything appropriated that I need for my district before I leave, because somebody's going to come in and replace me, and I want this to be ready to go without having them have this, besides that steep learning curve, have to go back and do all of these things a second time. So I will be appropriating in almost all cases, the entire amount. And when I don't, I'll say so.
Follow-up question to that, Ms. Ford,
sure.
Is then, so, with your amendment, you mentioned the Air National Guard assistance. So in your amendment, it states $2 million.
Right.
So that's what you anticipate that we may need to pay out in addition to the assistance that they can provide without cost, correct?
Yes. Air National Guard brings in equipment, heavy equipment. They do provide all the free labor, and they provide the fuel for their heavy equipment. So we're guesstimating that grading and getting site preparation done by them would be about $2 million. There's no way that I, as a council member, and certainly without the engineers going out and actually picking the location, which is not done yet, we would not be able to make any kind of a more educated guess than this. So Of the $30 million, we would save something, $2 million, possibly more.
So just for discussion purposes on the amendment, what would you say is the value of the services provided by the Air National Guard in your proposal?
In this one, they'll be doing the site preparation for us.
So how much would it?
We're guesstimating that it would be about $2 million worth. Now, different types of projects would be a different amount. The guesstimate ranges from 40 to 60% of a project. The reason we chose such a low percentage on this particular project is because the kind of building that it is, because it's multi-event center and an emergency shelter capable of handling up to 1,000 people. That's all vertical work that they're not going to be doing on this project. It's quite difficult. We got to meet federal standards and all kinds of things.
Okay. So what I'm trying to get at, I guess, is so this proposal is similar to the one we just passed for somewhere in districts 3, 4, 5, 6.
Without Air National Guard.
Right, without Air National Guard.
Yeah,
right?
Mr. Ikeda passed that. He had $25 million, but he only put in $500,000 for the actual design work.
Plans and design work. Okay, so just what I'm getting at is, so your figure as far as how much this would cost later on down the road is $30 million, or is it $30 million plus the donated services from the Air National Guard?
The guesstimate we've got at this point is $30 million.
Okay, it's just to give me some idea as far as when we go back later on, whenever that is, for the other project that we just, for the Hilo side, right?
This is a slightly different thing. Mr. Ikeda's bill, if I remember correctly, was for a multi-event center and gymnasium.
Right.
Okay, this is a multi-event center and a civil defense shelter.
So this has to meet
much different standards.
It's tougher, I would think.
Much tougher, tougher. And we've got to also got to put the equipment in place. There'll be a certified kitchen. We got to have civil defense supplies. It's quite. That's why it's more expensive.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Yoshimoto. Any other discussion? Councilmember Eoff?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will to support this project. West Hawaii is a major growth area. We will be needing such a facility. I would feel more comfortable if we had support from either the UH or the legislators or our state or somewhere to kind of pinpoint a land area. But if that isn't necessary at this point, I'm going to support the CIP project. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kanuha?
Yes, I also support getting the support of the state is extremely important, especially if we're going to put it in certain sites. And I know Ms. Ford knows that, and I hope we can all talk to our legislators and get the support. On this, the council benefit, it says it benefits 6, 7, and 8. I mean, if it's going to be in District 8, possibly, it would also benefit District 9. Because of the proximity, the location, it's pretty close to, and there's a lot of community out there that would go to this for many different types of events. So I think it would help support the District 9. But I'm in support of this. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ford?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kanuha, for making that comment without trying to not put in a shelter in District 9. I actually agree with one of the testifiers that all the districts should have some type of a shelter of some type. I realize that some districts, in fact 6 in my district, because of the lava zone they are in, may not be able to attract FEMA money for some of these shelters. But with that said and put aside, yes, if something happened in Kahala and we could move people, a large group of people down, they could certainly use it. No shelter exclusively belongs to a particular district. And when I say district, I'm not talking council district, I'm talking geographical district. So yes, we could use it for anything. One of the reasons that I thought District 8 is actually And it could be 7, the top is 7, because your districts are, you guys know where your districts are. The reason I'm thinking 8 is because Districts 7 and 8 are so close to the airport. As a multi-event center, we would track more tourism, having these types of tourist events that would come in and would fill our hotels. So yes, thank you for that comment about District 9. I agree with you.
Thank you. Councilmember Eoff, did you have something else to say?
Oh, no, thank you.
Oh, okay, your light was on. Okay.
Just one fast comment.
Sure, go ahead, Councilmember Nisha.
Well, for out in District 6, Pahala will be having a shelter or emergency shelter and a gymnasium, which is being provided by the state funds. The governor did release those monies, but now they're having a problem with, I guess, the caves in certain locations. But what I heard but they are proceeding with some of the grading in other areas. But then it would really be nice to see that the representative from District 8 would have done this proposal, and because, or even like 7 or 8, because it's of the locations. But it would. Yeah. I mean, just
a point of order, because I got caught up into this too. Because we're on the amendment, and I was, we're still on the amendment for the change of the amount.
Right.
So I'm sorry that I allowed it to continue this far, because I got caught into it too. So.
I'm also was trying to wanted to know if someone did call Parks and Rec for them to come here.
I'll ask my legislative assistant if Sunshine, if you could make sure and check.
They were called.
Oh yeah, can you remind them? Can you call them? Okay, thanks. Okay, yeah, a call has been made to them, and we'll find out what's happening there. Okay, so Councilmember Ford?
Thank you. Really quick, since Pahala was actually mentioned, remember I said earlier, this is not about the council district. I said specifically that I support geographic districts having something. And District 6 Council District is split between Ka'u, which is where the Pahala shelter is under construction or will be, and South Kona and North Kona, which is also, I have a slice of North Kona, which we hardly remember about, but I do have this sliver of it. That's the Kona district. So this shelter is Kona geographical district. And for someone in South Kona, or even in South Kona on the edge of the Ka'u district, they would be so much physically closer to Council District 8 near the airport than they would be to Pahala. So we also have to keep in mind the geography of our island, that where we put something has to be in an area that lends itself to getting people to it. Thank you.
Can I go back to, we're still in the amendment for 86.1. I'm sorry. I know, I just got so caught up into it too. So is there any other discussion on the change in the amount, which is the amendment, which is 86.1? So if we don't have any further discussion, can we vote on the amendment 86.1? So Mr. Clerk, will you call the vote?
Ms. Eoff.
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
Aye.
Mr. Iligan.
Aye.
Mr. Kanuha.
Aye.
Mr. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Onishi.
Aye.
Ms. Willie.
Aye.
Mr. Yoshimoto.
Aye.
Chair Poindexter.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 9 ayes.
Thank you. So I guess it's just approved, and we go back to Communication 86 Bill 30, and the motion is still live on the floor. So that's a discussion. I know we had a lot of the discussion already. Does anyone else want to add to this discussion? And I would like to somehow ask to add also, but Mr. Councilmember Kanuha?
Well, I accidentally pushed the button, but I don't want to repeat what I said. I support this. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone have any objection if I make a comment? Okay. I do support a civil defense shelter. I do agree with what Margaret Willie, Councilmember Willie had stated. And, for District 1, when we look at a civil defense, more than likely it's either an earthquake that will destroy our gulches that we will not be able to get into District 2, or a tidal wave or something that we could not travel the low waterline areas through District 1 getting into District 2. So we're looking at moving all of District 1 and evacuating up into District 9. And normally that's what happens anyway. We've been moving people up into District 9. So I agree with Councilmember Willie in that we need to, as a council, look at our entire island and looking at mapping out where these civil defense areas are, and also looking at the CERT teams and how do we be able to activate each other's district resources to where the disaster may be. So I totally agree with you. I will be supporting this because I do agree, like with Councilmember Ford, that there should be shelters throughout our island. But again, you know, at the priority where, you know, District 9 is a growing area, District 1 also. You know, and then I agree with Ke'au also, because if you look at the redistricting, what happened is the Puna area had the heaviest growth, you know, so we need to somehow at one point look at the overall. But again, I will be supporting this.
One last
sure. Councilmember Willie?
Yes, thank you for those comments. And one thing I wanted to say to Ms. Ford is I appreciate that she is sort of multitasking in terms of a multifunctional facility and also emergent disaster center. And it might be something that in looking at the east side facility might be possible for that facility. What are the emergency needs? And that's why I sort of went to Parks and Rec first, but I also think working with civil defense. My feeling in terms of District 9 is we are a logical host community for any major disaster in some ways, along with Hamakua in terms of water, food, and availability. Our whole, when any tsunami warning, our whole area and parking lots all fill up and everybody comes uphill to where we are. So it is something, again, that doesn't mean gulches fall in and where do you go. So that's why getting a more comprehensive look is important. I did speak to the civil defense head, who, the previous one who just is no longer there, and he said, agreed that it was very important to do an analysis of our assets, what we have, and then a gap analysis, what we don't. And I see that both in terms of our multi-purpose facilities and civil defense, and I am going to be looking for who can help us come to a little more comprehensive viewpoint before we're just providing money on a piecemeal basis. Thanks again.
Councilmember Onishi?
Thanks. Councilwoman Willie, I'd mentioned earlier about, you know, their CDP where they're looking at a high school. So, you know, what I've noticed the past years is that, I guess working with the DOE, the state, the schools having their gymnasiums, and that became shelters. So, for example, like the Pahala, for Pahala High School, that gym is going to be like a FEMA shelter. Hilo High School, which is going to be built, is also a FEMA shelter. And I think the one in Pahoa, the one that they're building, or they finished it already. Councilman Iligan, that Pahoa gymnasium with the Pahoa High School, is that finished already, correct?
It's an open field.
Yes.
And is that another FEMA shelter too?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay, but one thing we we need to remember is that when it becomes a FEMA shelter, the cost of that building rises a lot, and that's the difference between like just building a gymnasium, which not a shelter, and then also on because of the louvers and all that has to be certain types and so forth. But you know that's working maybe with the legislature, working with the DOE, working with the federal governments, and that's a plan. Yes. Yeah, so just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I just have one more I'd like to call up Deanna because I was getting confused a little bit about reading how it's laid out on the finance, and I'd like to just get a summary of what how it would impact our finance department, and going forward on when we do proposals for the CIP, maybe we can learn from this also. So thank you for bringing this forward, Ms. Ford. Thank you.
I was looking at the amendment, and which I know you guys approved already, but typically, because we're amending the FY12-13 budget, the amounts that we're amending are actually in the FY12-13 column, so that it's clear that that this is going to now match our budget, even though I know that expected expenditures are in 14-15. So typically, we would move that all to that same column, so it's easier for us to track. In addition, in the on the project appropriation, when we have like several funding sources like this, we typically create a project for each funding source, especially if it's federal or state grants, because those has different requirements, and we don't want it to be mixed in with it. So preferably between now and maybe the next meeting, I can work with Mrs. Ford to maybe just fix up the top portion so that we have the fundings, we have a separate appropriation for each funding source so that it doesn't get commingled later on, especially with federal requirements. We have the single audit and other requirements we have to comply with. We want to make sure we're tracking those funds correctly.
So Ms. Councilmember Ford, are you okay with working to kind of help revise the numbers in the fiscal years?
Absolutely. It's not the FIS that we really need to change. It's the bill itself with the line item number that you're concerned about, correct?
Right. And normally, though, we would have the bill and the FIS 12-13 column matching because we're amending the 12-13 budget for the full $30 million.
Are you suggesting that we move everything out 1 year?
More like into the 12-13 column.
Okay. Let me comment on that then. There are two trains of thought on this. One is that if you want to put everything, all 30 million into the 12-13, you can do that. I opted not to do that because it isn't going to happen, number one. And number two, we've got to go after this money in different years, and we have to, hopefully involve Air National Guard, and they won't be here until 14. So I spread this out. This is up to 6 years and beyond, identifying what we have to do in what year. That's why the $2 million is set aside as the site preparation time in the 13-14 year. So the reason it's spread out is because, one, we aren't going to get this money in a really quick manner, and secondly, we know that the construction is going to take a period of time. So I think they call it front loading. I'm not sure. Front loading everything into 12-13 is, in my opinion, is not appropriate because it doesn't give the council a good idea of what is going to happen in each phase. So that's why I spread it out. But I absolutely agree with changing the bill itself and getting the appropriate more numbers. This is an appropriate number, but getting more numbers for each one of those potential revenue inputs.
So, I do understand the money's not going to be spent till 14-15, but typically when the administration submits something, our request matches what's in the 12-13 column. And partly because we do planning and design first, because that may actually impact the costs in fiscal year 14-15. But I understand why you want it all in here now because you probably won't be here. Okay, so I understand that. So what council people may not know is that when we go to issue bonds and do other things, we take what's in our capital budget and then we look at each of these other columns for projections. It makes it very confusing when we've actually already appropriated the full 30 million and then are showing 27 million out in the future that we're going to pick up again. So I'm trying to work together to make something work out. And one other comment real quickly is that if I'm hearing you correctly, we're not actually going to pay Air National Guard. They're going to provide the services.
That is correct. And the Air National Guard provides in-kind services in the estimated amount of $2 billion. It might turn out to be something higher than that.
Right, something different. So typically, we're not expending the money for that, so we wouldn't appropriate it, but actually you would do, or someone would do a resolution to accept that donation.
Right, that is correct. When we get when the application goes into the Air National Guard and they accept the project, that's number one. They accept the project. We don't know at this moment in time what that amount will be, but we will accept their in-kind work. And by that time, we will know what site preparation costs, probably, because hopefully we've done all of the design and planning work. But we don't know when they're going to be able to do that physical work. It will go out into one of the future years. So this is the best we can guesstimate at this moment in time with how this is going to be out. It may turn out that it's going to wind up being put out 2 years or 3 years. And when it comes up to the 3-year lapse report, if it's not done, it'll get reappropriated into appropriate years at that time. But I want it on the books in the total amount, so whoever follows me in those years will know what they're supposed to be doing. And Ms. Sacco is correct. The mayor may say, it's nice that she's got this, but we're not going to allot the money to this, and therefore Deanna's not going to go try to sell bonds for it for several more years, and that's okay. This just gets it on the wish list and gives a picture of what we're looking to do. But I will work with Ms. Sacco and Finance to get the right line item numbers in there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Sacco, anything further?
No, that's fine.
No, thank you. Any other discussion? Councilmember Elegant?
Deputy Director, I do got a question.
Sorry.
So what you're saying is that to make it more transparent, it shouldn't actually be on there, the Air National Guard assistance, and
or maybe we could add language like in-kind donation or something like that to make it clear.
It is confusing.
When we appropriate money, even though it might be a wish list at this point in time, when we do the appropriation, the intention is that's how much money we're going to spend. And I don't think we're going to be spending that particular $2 million. They're going to provide the services. So at least to make it clear, and that typically donations, not typically always, donations have to be accepted by the county council. So.
And I do got a question for Councilmember Ford. Is there a deadline where you can, because when you were telling us about the Air National Guard, they said that you have to make sure you turn in the projects at a certain time. When's that deadline?
I'd like to answer that question, and may I answer the in-kind one before? I left off in-kind. And some of mine that you see in the future, you'll see it maybe even the next one. You'll see the in-kind, and it should be on there. I'll correct that for sure. But the reason I put the $2 million in there is the Air National Guard refuses to take that project, and we're going to be paying for the site preparation work somehow. Maybe out of the county funds, maybe out of state funds, maybe out of other federal funds. But the $2 million, I need to have it there so you know what our guess is for that particular portion of the project. So if, let's say the Air National Guard said, no, we're not going to take this project. Okay, then somebody after me is going to come back and say, okay, strike the $2 million off of the in-kind line and put it someplace else. That's what somebody else will have to do. Right now, I'm doing my best to get the Air National Guard in here. Now, regarding your other question, the deadline. The Air National Guard will be coming out here sometime in 2014. As I told you before, the mayor has said, yeah, we want to work with them and help their training program. If you want to get a project accepted, approved for 2014, you must complete the application by the end of February of 2013, that's this month. You must have all of your documentation, the permits, the deeds of ownership, your blueprints, all of that stuff has to be in that package. It goes to the Pentagon. They bring in all the different D components. They look at, they say, yeah, we're going to take this, who wants it? And let's say the Air National Guard takes it. Okay? It's got to be ready to go, shovel ready basically by the end of this month. Now, this project is not even close to being shovel-ready. What is on our books already, there will be some of those that are shovel-ready and that we could apply for, and the department's heads will have to do that.
Thank you, Councilmember Ford. So in what I'm understanding, and from what you're saying, is that this is probably will happen not in your term, and the Air National Guard option will never happen because it's not going to happen anytime in 2 years from now, and we don't even know if that's going to be available on the next term. So my opinion would be to actually just take that out, and for the next council member that would come in, just have a separate document that states what your intentions are and what you want to do. I feel that if you want to be transparent, we should write down what we're going to expend and go from there. Thank you.
May I comment? Thank you. Councilmember Ford?
Thank you. The council needs to understand that when we put something on the wish list, we've got to put down all potential costs as we know them today. And today we don't have a design at all. And so this is our best guess on this. The Air National Guard wants very much to come in and help us. The mayor's office wants to work with the Air National Guard. The Air National Guard will, if this starts going, the Air National Guard is going to be out here for 5 years. They'll be out here for 5 years. So even if this doesn't go in 2013-14, it might be 14-15 or 15-16. So I still have to let the council know what it is we're going to be trying to do. The Air National Guard has a 5-year window. The life of this bill is 3 years unless whoever replaces me reappropriates to their council this information. So taking this off would not be transparent. It would actually not be showing the council and the public what it is we're going to be trying to do. Does that make sense? Okay.
Thank you. Again, Councilmember Ford will be working with the Finance Department to amend the numbers. Councilmember Yoshimoto?
Just a quick question to Ms. Ford. We're still in committee.
Yes.
Would you find it beneficial to hear from Parks and Rec before we vote on this today, or did you want to just move forward?
Thank you for asking that question. I have talked to Parks and Rec about this. They know that we're interested in doing it. I also talked extensively to Civil Defense when Mr. Fuata was here. Mr. Fuata also thinks every district ought to have some type of an emergency shelter, whether it's FEMA rated or not. But
point of order, there was a direct question. Why don't we have that question answered? Do we want Parks and Rec here before we vote on this? That was the question?
No. I've talked to them.
Okay, thank you. So we're not going. We'll move forward. Is there any other discussion? Being that there is no more discussion, Mr. Clerk, will you please take the vote?
Ms. Eoff.
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
Aye.
Mr. Iligan.
Point of order. Are we?
We're on the main motion.
Aye.
Mr. Kanuha.
Aye.
Mr. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Onishi. Ms. Willie.
Aye.
Mr. Yoshimoto.
Aye.
Chair Poindexter.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 9 ayes.
Okay, Bill 30 moves forward to council with a positive recommendation. 11:30, Human Services was supposed to begin at 11:30. This committee, I know we started a little late. Would you want us to continue or stop here and get into the Human Services Committee, or can we continue? Chair Eoff?
If it's okay with everybody else, I see you have the Legislative Auditor's Office waiting. We could just continue with Finance and start Human Services late.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, with that being said, Mr. Clerk, will you please read Communication 88, Bill
88, Bill 31, amends ordinance number 12-87 as amended relating to public improvements and financing thereof for the fiscal year July 1st, 2012 to June 30th, 2013, from Council Member Brenda J. Ford, dated January 15, 2013, adds the Parks and Recreation Kahuku Park Improvements Phase 1 Water Improvements Project for $60,000 to the capital budget. Funds for the project shall be provided from the General Obligation Bonds Capital Projects Fund, fund balance, and or other sources, $60,000. This project addresses public health and safety concerns by providing an ample source of potable water for drinking, irrigation, and other auxiliary source and for an auxiliary source during emergencies.
May I have a motion to approve Bill 31?
So moved.
Second.
It's been, Councilmember Ford has moved for the passage of Bill 31, and it's been seconded by Councilmember Onishi. Any discussion? Councilmember Ford?
Thank you for this. Okay. Kahuku Park is the only park in the Ocean View area. It happens to be inside the Ocean View subdivision, but it's for this whole area. And it is a community park that lacks a lot of things. It was actually built on county land by the community. Everything that's there today is by the community. And the community is very invested in this. So the community is going to provide a lot of assistance, in-kind assistance. How much they're going to provide, we don't know, so I didn't list it on here. But first of all, let me amend Bill 31 with contents of Communication 88.1.
Second.
Thank you. All right. You'll see it went from $60,000 to $200,000. The reason it went up is we had a very long group discussion between Parks and Recreation and water supply to determine what is it going to take to get potable water in there. We currently have a tank with non-potable water in it, but we need potable water into the park. And so basically, there's going to be a meter that will be in place by water supply, and after that, everything behind the meter is going to belong to Parks and Recreation, which is why we have this bill in front of us. So we're going to have to go from the back side of the meter. We've got to build a small holding tank, 5 to 10,000 gallons. And out of the back side of that, we have another water line, a pump, because we've got to pump the water uphill to the community center. And then it will go into the tank, whatever tank it's going to be. Then on the back side, we want to have water going down into the ballpark for the baseball and the soccer football fields. These kids are playing on dirt. It's only mowed weeds, and unless Ocean View gets water, the grass doesn't grow. So this will provide all of those things. This is one phase of this particular park's multi-phase projects that I will be bringing forward in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the amendment, which is changing the dollar amount? Any other discussion? Since being no other discussion, Mr. Clerk, will you please call the vote on Amendment 88.1?
Ms. Eoff.
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
Aye.
Mr. Iligan.
Aye.
Mr. Kanuha.
Aye.
Mr. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Onishi.
Aye.
Ms. Willie.
Aye.
Mr. Yoshimoto.
Aye.
Chair Poindexter.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 9 ayes.
Amendment 88.1 is approved. Now we go back to the main motion, Communication 88, Bill 31. Any discussion? Council Member Elegant?
Just to add, when I did my research on this, I found out that the fire department can also tap into the water to put out fires if need be. And that's it. Aloha.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Being that there's no further discussion, Mr. Clerk, will you please call the vote?
Ms. Eoff.
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
Aye.
Mr. Iligan.
Aye.
Mr. Kanuha.
Aye.
Mr. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Onishi. Ms. Willie.
Aye.
Mr. Yoshimoto.
Aye.
Chair Poindexter.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 9 ayes.
Okay, Bill 31 moves forward to council with a positive recommendation. Mr. Clerk, will you please read Communication 95, Resolution 44-13 into the record?
Communication 95, Resolution 44-13, authorized acceptance of a monetary donation of $250 to the Department of Parks and Recreation to assist with the park's maintenance operations. From Finance Director Nancy Crawford, dated January 22nd, 2013, these funds donated by WH Shipment will be used by the Parks and Recreation to purchase food and beverages for the Vulcan Baseball Clinic participants.
May I have a motion to approve Resolution 44-13 and file all related communications?
Second.
So moved. It's pretty
Can
good.
Yeah,
So moved.
So moved. And okay,
Second.
do you want us to say? Okay, thank you.
say.
It's been, Councilmember Kern has moved to adopt Resolution 44-13, and it's been seconded by Councilmember Elegant. Any discussion? Oh, Councilmember Elegant?
I just have a recommendation. Anytime we do any donations, if you can waive it through committee just to expedite the process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kern?
I agree with Mr. Councilmember Relog, and I also wanted to say that appreciate Shipman's donation. I went to actually this basketball clinic when I was a youth, and it's great to have Shipman participating. Thanks.
That must have been many, many years ago.
Oh,
No,
so
I'm
long.
joking. Thank you. Any other, Councilmember Willie?
Yeah, I just want to say I agree, and I think that we should be passing these things through committee and even sometimes lumping them all together one time in the month. How can we become a little bit more efficient, I think is the point. Thank you for that suggestion.
Okay, I'll keep that definitely in mind. Councilmember Elegant?
I don't want to take credit for this. I actually got the idea from Councilmember Onishi.
Thank you, Councilmember Elegant. Any further discussion? Being none, Mr. Clerk, will you please call the vote?
Ms. Eoff.
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
Aye.
Mr. Iligan.
Aye.
Mr. Kanuha.
Aye.
Mr. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Onishi. Ms. Willie.
Aye.
Mr. Yoshimoto.
Aye.
Chair Poindexter.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 9 ayes.
Thank you. Resolution 44-13 moves forward to council with a positive recommendation. We now move to Communication 96. Mr. Clerk, will you please read Communication 96 into the record, please?
Communication 96, memorandum informing the council that the Office of the Legislative Auditor will be requesting the Department of Finance to draft a supplemental agreement number 5 and certify Acuity LLP's request for an additional $22,000 relating to the single audit increase for 2 additional programs. From Acting Legislative Auditor Lane Shibata, dated January 22nd, 2013, submitting Acuity LLP's request for an increase of $22,000 to contract number 002904, conduct audits of the accounts and financial transactions of the County of Hawaii. As there has been significant change in the scope in the number of federally funded programs that are required to be audited, funds will be from the Legislative Auditor's External Audit Miscellaneous Contract Services account.
May I have a motion to close file on Communication 96?
So move.
Second.
It has been moved by Councilmember Kanuha and seconded by Councilmember Kern. Is that right? Yes. Any discussion? No? You change your mind. Being that there's no discussion, Mr. Clerk, will you please call the vote?
Communication 96, Ms. Eoff.
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
Aye.
Mr. Iligan.
Aye.
Mr. Kanuha.
Aye.
Mr. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Onishi. Ms. Willie. Mr. Yoshimoto.
Aye.
Chair Poindexter.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 9 ayes.
Communication 96 is filed. Communication on 79 has been withdrawn, so we don't have to. Oh, we do have to.
You do.
Oh, okay.
You're the.
Okay.
You're the instigator, right?
Yep. I wouldn't
But-
put it that way.
Okay.
I withdraw resolution.
Okay, I withdraw Resolution 40-13 regarding the conveyance of property to Kohala Hospital.
Would you like me to read that in for the record, Madam Clerk?
Do we need to read that in for the record? Okay, go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Communication 79, Resolution 40-13 authorizes the abandonment and disposition of a government remnant situated at Ainakea District of North Kohala County and State of Hawaii, being tax map key 35-3-001:016 to Kohala Hospital from Finance Director Nancy Crawford, dated January 8, 2013. The remnant will be used as an access road to the hospital's new emergency room. Postponed January 22nd, 2013.
Okay, thank you. So now we just move into...
Withdraw.
Okay, so I'm withdrawing Resolution 40-13. Okay, so this meeting is...
Second.
Adjourned. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Okay. Human Services will start at 12 o'clock, so take a 5-minute recess.
What about lunch? Yeah.
Well, my committee should only take about 15 minutes. Is that all right? Okay.
So then we'll do like lunch like 12.
I like all these curveballs, man. It keeps me on my toes.
When there's a main motion.
Yeah.